You had a very long list of some of the things you've done in the AI industry, so I didn't want to run through all that. But let's get this conversation on the road because it's important. We've had so many, discussions with regards to, AI. So let's start with the bigger picture. Will AI actually help Africa, close that economic gap? Or will it widen the inequality? Is it likely to make the gap between the rich and the poor even wider? That would be where we should start from.
I wish I could give you a simple answer to this. But the truth is that it might end up doing the both. And, it makes it a very critical moment for Africa because, at present, only about 36% of Africans have access to the internet. And when you think about that for a second, we are talking about using AI to transform the world, but only 2/3 of the continent can even get to be online to get access to the internet. So if you are a young person, maybe in Ghana, and you have a smartphone and the internet, you can use AI to, improve your skills. You have access to it. You can use it to start the business. You can use it to optimize your work and processes. But then if you're a small farmer in one, rural community without access to electricity itself, so AI might then just become like a science fiction to you. And, this is where it gets interesting because AI has the potential to solve a lot of development barriers between, the rich and the poor. But I'll give you an example. Like, in Kenya and in Nigeria, we have AI-powered tools that are helping, community health workers to diagnose diseases like malaria and tuberculosis by just using a small smartphone, camera. So you can just train a community worker on how to provide medical insights with this, little devices, which would have actually required an expensive lab equipment. Another example is in agriculture, where you have farmers using some AI-driven platforms, to probably get weather predictions, weather alerts, and the rest of them. I think in Ghana, it's called Farmer Line or something like that. So right now, African governments are spending very little, of their GDP on digital infrastructure. So when you compare that to the fact that over 600 million Africans still don't have access to electricity, so you can't successfully run AI without power itself. And then you can't train people without the internet. So that answer actually depends on the choices that we make in the next few years. So if we invest in infrastructure and digital literacy and also make some inclusive AI policies, then, it could be our moment to probably just, reduce that gap itself. Several things need to happen.
You just took that out of my mouth. I wanted to go to the data quality. But before that, when you were talking about the whole use of AI and all that, I wanted to quickly ask you, in being honest, we can use AI to do a couple of surgeries this day. Somebody can be in the US and operate on somebody right here in Abuja. Would you want to go through such a procedure, in all honesty, at this time?
No, I don't think we want to go into that yet, because we don't have the framework in Africa that can put these things in place. So how well have we tested them? How well have we used them? So what is the source? You need to first test them before you then look at the success rate of it before you deploy them. So currently we are not ready for that yet in Africa.
All right. Let's talk open source, open source becoming more powerful. And then the question then becomes, should Africa then regulate it before trust is broken down? And how can trust be eroded in this situation when we talk about open source, operations and all that, apps and all the rest? What should be done to really, mitigate the risk? And what risk are we really looking at as we speak?
Okay, so we are actually facing a paradox here. And because the very openness that makes AI accessible could also be the thing that actually destroys the public trust in it. But this is what I actually believe. I believe that, restricting open source AI before we fully understand what it can do, will look like we are trying to lock the laboratory door after we've already released the experiment into the world. So there's a trust dilemma here. Open source AI is both a gift and a risk, because on one hand, it is allowing researchers to be able to build AI tools without having to get billions in funding, which is powerful. But on the other hand, that same openness means that anyone can, access, modify, and weaponize the models. And we're already seeing that with all these deep fakes that can be even used to even swing elections. We can use AI to generate wrong information and then flood it on the social media. We can create voice and video clones. And that is why the World Economic Forum actually ranks AI-driven misinformation to be among the world's top risk. And research has also shown that as humans, it's becoming increasingly difficult to be able to consistently identify what has been generated with AI. Sometimes I myself, I see things and I ask myself again, is this AI or not? So we've crossed the path where we can't tell what is real without the use of technology. So I do not believe that there should be blanket restrictions, all right? Locking down open source AI would actually stifle a lot of innovation, and it's going to basically just put the power of AI itself in the hands of a few, tech giants. The truth is that trust is not destroyed by openness. It is actually destroyed by the lack of accountability. So how accountable are we with it? So the answer isn't to restrict it, itself, but to also build into it trust through transparency and, community oversight and smart and governance.
All right. Let's quickly, just before we go on the break, let's quickly talk AI and security. Nigeria's major problem as a security issue. And I'm not talking, data breaches and all that. That's not what I'm talking. Real, physical, on-ground security issues. Where do you think we are right now when it comes to the use of AI in tackling the situation in which we found ourselves? And what needs to be done? What more needs to be done? What better has to be done?
Okay. So Nigeria isn't sleepwalking into an AI-driven security crisis because we are like already in one. The question is if we are going to wake up in time, because right now, lots of organizations in Nigeria, they face a lot of cyber attacks almost daily. So AI has actually changed everything. I mentioned deepfakes.
I was actually talking beyond deepfakes and cyber attacks. I'm talking on the ground. I'm talking kinetic issues. I'm saying how can AI play a role in our kinetic issues per se? Because beyond just the security breaches, like we said, and all the cyber attacks, there are other things on ground which are the real costs of panic in the nation. How does AI come into play, though?
Well, regarding security issues and AI itself, I think we are trying our best on that, to be honest with you. And I'll try to look at some other cases that I haven't mentioned now. I understand that Nigeria has tried, even with other African countries, to secure a lot of surveillance technologies that can be used to help our security system. But the truth is, where exactly are we using it for? Are we using it for the right purpose? And if you look at Nigeria and some other African countries now, they've tried to use these surveillance technologies. I'm talking about digital cameras, surveillance cameras, almost in every street corners to monitor happenings in the country. But then, what's the result itself? How have you used it? What's the result itself? How have you caught criminals? How have you caught terrorists with it? But instead, what we see most times is we see that people who make posts online, probably against a high-ranking official, are being used, to be caught. So we use this to track them. We use AI systems. We use different technology systems to go after this set of people. But in Nigeria, I think there was a pharmacist that was arrested and detained for months without trial because they made a social media post that was critical of a high-ranking official. And the person was charged with terrorism. So these similar cases have also happened in Malawi and in Ghana. So, we are being made to understand that it is, it's meant to catch criminals. But in the true sense of it, it's almost like it's silencing people. But there is actually hope because we are beginning to see pushbacks already. In May of this year, I think ECOWAS court ruled that the Senegal's internet shutdown that happened was actually unlawful and that it violated citizens' rights. So what we need to do is we need to have a comprehensive data protection laws. and transparency in how these systems are procured and used. So that in itself, I think we don't have enough in terms of that. We don't have a comprehensive data protection laws as Africa generally. So, this digital surveillance we're talking about is the new form of government control in Africa.